The content, views, and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the City of Bremerton, BCAT, their officials, or their employees. Hello and welcome to Conversation with the Community Leader, brought to you by the Leadership Kitsap Foundation. I'm your host and Leadership Kitsap alum, Dave Walters. With me today, we have Jennifer Hardison, Executive Director at South Kitsap Helpline. So thank you for coming. It's great to have you. In Western Washington, 1 in 9 people suffer from hunger, and 1 in 6 of them are children. Kitsap County, it's estimated that 40,000 people will struggle with putting a meal on their table at least once during the year. To combat that, South Kitsap Helpline has been around since 1980, and they distribute well over 1 million pounds of food every single year. So we have much to talk about, Jennifer, but before we do, let's talk about you. So where are you originally from?
I'm originally from California and moved up here in my teens and was raised in Bellevue, Washington.
Okay, and then how did you end up at, because you've been with SK Helpline for quite a while now.
Quite a while, since 2001, if you can believe that.
And what did you do when you first started?
I started doing part-time public relations.
Okay.
And was there for a few months, maybe 6 months, and then became the director.
Was that your plan going in?
That was not my plan going in. I actually fought it and told them that I would help them find somebody when they let their other director move on. But all the applications I was reviewing as they were coming in the mail, just nobody really had any experience, and they finally wore me down, and
thought you could
here
bring more,
I still
thought
am.
You could bring more to the table for them. So you've been with them for over 20 years as executive director.
Yes, I think I'm August might be
20 years.
25 almost.
That's
25,
outstanding.
yeah.
So have you always wanted to have a career helping people?
You know, I had never done nonprofit work. Growing up, I had always, worked at daycares and things when I was going to school and college. I was a nanny at college. But when I did my internship for my journalism, public relations internship, I worked for the Children's Museum in Seattle.
Oh, okay.
And that was the last thing I did before I graduated, and I really loved it. And they were a nonprofit, and I just enjoyed it so much. I stayed on after I graduated and worked in the office, hoping they would have an opening in their development or public relations area, but they really didn't. And the office manager there at the time had a relative working for a nonprofit in Renton that was an Alzheimer's program, and they were looking for somebody to kind of an entry-level PR person.
Oh, okay.
And so I joined them and fell in love with that work, stayed there about 5 years, and then eventually relocated to Kitsap. My dad actually worked for the Kitsap Sun newspaper back in the day.
It was called Bremerton-Sun.
It was Bremerton-Sun, and so he had a house here over on Yukon Harbor that he and my mom would come over, and visit and start to renovate, and he would live here during the week so he could get to work, and I would come over and visit, and I just really loved the area. And so I had a little girl at the time, and it just seemed like a nice, quiet place to raise a little one. And then I answered the Helpline ad in the newspaper.
Oh, really? In the newspaper?
Yeah, after we moved. So we moved here in 99, so been here since.
And then executive director 6 months later.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow, so you've been there quite a while. So let's move on to the Helpline.
Yeah.
So what are the services that South Kitsap Helpline provides?
Right now, our primary service is food. Need, as you can probably imagine, is going up quite a bit right now with the cost of groceries, and it just hard to make ends meet for most folks right now. So groceries are our main mission at this point, but we do have some financial assistance for things that can't be covered through other organizations. We do some transportation vouchers. We do bus tokens, things like that. We have quite an extensive service for homeless or unhoused clients, and do a lot of clothing. We did clothing for a while. We've had to stop that for now, just because of space, and we were storing food where we used to store clothes. But
So where are you located?
we currently are located just up the street from the high school in Port Orchard on Mitchell, at the old Port Orchard Nursery location, if anybody is familiar with that. So we've been there since 2010, and moved in and rehired some of the nursery folks that were let go when they were closing the nursery, and they grew for us for years and years, and we were able to.
You had an interesting format for a while there, where you were actually growing your own food on site.
Yes,
part of your own food, not all your food.
Yeah, a lot of it though. Yeah,
and you've discontinued that right now.
Only because of challenges with our current location. We had to connect to sewer during the pandemic, and so we had to dig everything up, which caused a lot of water leaks. It's a very old nursery with very antiquated plumbing, but when your septic drain field stops working, you have to do something. And so
you can't wait on that.
Yeah, so the water to the greenhouses doesn't work the way that it's supposed to, and just over the years, everything's just kind of fallen apart. So
we will talk about your future plans. I promise you.
Yeah, we had plans there.
Before we jump into that, so what are some of the causes of hunger issues in Kitsap County?
I think
I'm sure there's not just one.
Yeah, I think, and not just in Kitsap County, I think people just don't make a living wage a lot of the time. I think rent costs right now are just absolutely through the roof, and people just can't. You can sort of juggle your bills and things like that, but your grocery bill, if you need to pay more on your power that month, comes out of what you'd probably pay on groceries, and just costs are so high right now, and people are just struggling so hard. I just think there are a lot of reasons. A lot of reasons. Yes.
Are there eligibility requirements?
There are no eligibility.
For your customers?
No, we are a need-based program. We have a couple of smaller programs that do ask people to self-declare. They look at a chart
those would be for
and
like
see
your
government commodities. Yes. But for our regular food program that provides the grocery shopping, anybody in need of food is eligible. And we always recognize, people can have a healthy income and have a 2-person working household, but you can have a hospital bill, or your car can break down, and something that takes all of your money for that month. So
sometimes
we are
everybody needs a little
open
help.
to anybody that needs help, definitely.
Outstanding. And then do you have permanent employees besides yourself?
We do. We have 10 employees right now. Myself and our assistant director are the only full-time people. Everybody else is part-time, between 15 and 20 hours a week usually.
And I know the answer to this, but do you use volunteers?
Yes, we use a lot of volunteers.
And then what do your volunteers do for you?
Right now they are working in the food bank. They shop with customers. They restock, they repack, they receive donations, which is a really big one. And back when we had our nursery, we had a lot of volunteers that worked out in the nursery too, grew food.
And then do you have case managers or?
We don't. That's something with our new building that we are definitely
gonna figure out.
That's a huge need.
But right now you do refer people to other organizations.
Yeah, we refer, but we would love to have.
Because one thing I have noticed in having a lot of nonprofits that are working with people that need help is working with your peers. So do you work with other food banks or?
Yes, we're part of the Kitsap County Food Bank Coalition. We have pretty healthy partnerships with all of our Port Orchard agencies. There's some soup kitchens. There's the new Mission, the Pacific building, just right down the street from where our new building is. So we have some really great partnerships and work together very closely.
Because that really builds the strength of the whole community.
Definitely.
When you can have other organizations
Definitely.
focus on certain things.
To know who has what resource available is critical. You know, we're working with people who are in crisis that maybe don't have minutes on their phone to go and call and, you know, wait on hold and that sort of thing. So for us to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, do you have a gas voucher that we can send so-and-so down to? We work closely with local churches, lots of people.
And then I know you're your own nonprofit, but are you associated with a church or a
We are
specific
not.
organization?
We did originally back in the late 70s, grew out of the Kitsap Ministerial Association, South Kitsap Ministerial Association. So we had a lot of people, I guess, at that point that were going from church to church needing help. And so they just wanted to come together and form one location where people could come for assistance.
Interesting. But you're your own standalone.
We
right
are
now.
a standalone, yes.
So how are you funded?
We are, the majority of our funding prior to these last couple of years, when we've received some legislative funding for our building and capital projects, privately funded. We've really, small grants, that sort of thing. But our community, our South Kitsap community is amazing, and that has always made up more than half of our budget.
Oh, so
Yeah.
just individuals or
giving.
businesses
The person that mails the check for $10. When we launched our online giving program, that was really easy for people to sign up to make.
Yeah, your website is
a
set up to
monthly
very
gift.
easy donations.
Thank
That's
you.
really good.
Yeah, so people can go online and sign up to give a recurring donation. But yeah, it's really, those are our bread and butter and our people that really look out for us.
And then where does your food come from?
Our food comes from a lot of the local grocery stores in South Kitsap. We do a grocery rescue program, and we pick up from like Fred Meyer, Safeway, Albertsons, Walmart, 7-Elevens. If people don't pick up their pizza at Papa Murphy's will stop there and pick up pizzas, things
wow.
like that. Yeah,
Oh,
so we're pretty fortunate where we are. We have a very healthy grocery rescue program, and then we purchase food with the donations that we receive, so things that we don't receive through that program. And then we are also partner of Food Lifeline and Northwest Harvest as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
So
should
you
have
know.
lined
Yeah.
up with those guys. That's outstanding. So how can the community support?
You know, we are always looking for volunteers. We're always looking for people that just want to get involved, whether, you know, they like to do fundraising, or, you know, we can always use people to help with our fundraising events. And so people that would consider being on a committee, that would be wonderful. If they'd like to donate food to us, if they'd like to sign up to be an online supporter through our website, that would be wonderful. You know, we get a lot of support around the holidays, and most of the time we make those 2 months of donations last for 12 months.
Spread them out, yes.
But people are hungry year round. So if people would consider becoming a recurring donor to help us meet those needs, because in addition to the food, and we purchase a lot of food, but, you know, we have bills to pay as well. We have to have insurance. Right. You can't put, you know, I always say you can't put canned corn into your gas tank to go run your truck to pick up food. So there are costs to run those freezers and to make sure that we're, you know,
And then
doing what we need.
for people looking to volunteer, do I have to commit to 5 days a week?
No, no. Yeah, just whatever works for you, and you know what we
So
ask.
if it was just one afternoon, that
Oh,
would...
totally. We have people that just do one afternoon. We have people that do more. They would just go to our website, and we have a volunteer application on there, and they can let us know their availability. And then our food bank manager would look at our schedule and plug them into where they would fit.
All right, so let's talk about the exciting stuff.
So many exciting things.
So what's new in the plans?
Oh, what's not new? What is not new? So as I mentioned, our existing location has been sort of falling apart for the last few years. And we knew originally moving there that we were hoping to build on the land. We have the 2 parcels of land. We have the nursery owner's house where we run our offices out of, and that's right next to where the old nursery was. And so we converted the food bank building, we converted the nursery sales building to our food bank. And then we had been using the gardens. We created some just amazing gardens that produced a lot of food. And then we used the 3 greenhouses to not only grow food, but we also grew plants and flowers that we were able to sell to then benefit our programs. People would pre-order poinsettias and do things like that. We found over the years it's really hard to compete with the discount stores for those things. And so we sort of went back to the drawing board a few times, and really when the pandemic happened, we had just planted all of our things for the spring and summer and had invested a lot of funding into seeds and things like that. And so we did a quick online store so people could order and do curbside pickup. And but over the years, like I had mentioned earlier when we were chatting, our septic drain field stopped working, and the health district doesn't like that. And so we had to connect to sewer, which you can imagine was not a very inexpensive project, but it also tore up a lot of our gardens. And so we really haven't grown anything there for quite a number of years now, which makes us really sad. We got a grant from Virginia Mason to do some raised bed gardens in our front yard, which was wonderful. But we really want to get back to being able to do those things.
Which is very unique for
it's
food
very
banks.
unique, and our volunteers just loved it, and we would specifically grow things for the food bank that we didn't get donated. And Kathy, who was our grower at the time, who worked for the nursery for very many years, just had such a green thumb, and she grew the most beautiful English cucumbers. And every morning, during the season, we'd go out and pick the English cucumbers, and they'd go right into the food bank. Because prior to that, if we got fresh produce donated, it was because there was something wrong with it, or so to have those things for people was so nice. And our gardens were set up so, because we have such a small space there, people would have to wait to go in and do their shopping. And so Jeanette, who was our garden coordinator at the time, would create these beautiful areas, and people could walk through tunnels with beans and try snap peas. And she had information where, why are bees important, and all these sorts of things. So it was a real learning garden, as well as, getting people to try and taste and test things.
So are you moving to a new location?
So we have been trying to build on our property. We have beautiful plans and had received the funding, some of the funding that we needed. And in the end, it just wasn't feasible for us to grow on our build on our existing property. And so last spring, we had to pivot, and we had federal funds that were donated to the project. We didn't want to lose those, and started looking at commercial properties. And when we were going to be building on our property, it was because there were no commercial properties available. I mean, if we wanted to move out to Olalla or somewhere,
but
we have to stay close where people can access us. And so I'm going to be honest, I was the last one on board with pivoting. I was like, no, we can do it. And it just wasn't meant to be. And so our real estate agent, he started looking for properties for us and said, did you know there's a restaurant up on Mile Hill that's been for sale?
Which is right down the street
and
from you.
It was right down the street, and they were operating still as a restaurant, so we didn't know it had been for sale for quite a while, and went through and really thought about it, and it was a good fit. And so we were able to convert our federal funding from construction to acquisition. We spent the good part of last year trying to negotiate. There are so many rules with HUD, so it took us a long time. We almost lost the property a couple of times, but in the end, at the end of February, we got the bank loan set up because it's a reimbursement grant, got everything ready to go, and federal funding was frozen the week that we went to purchase our building.
Now, there's a little bit of stress
so
there.
it was a little bit of stress. A little bit of stress in a very stressful few years. But we made the decision to move forward and sign, and took that leap, hoping we would be reimbursed. And we actually were a few weeks ago. So we received our funding back, and we're able to pay off our loan. We own the building outright now.
Which is why it's important for people to contact our local representatives
So
and tell them
important.
what the community needs, because they will fight for us, but we got to make sure we tell them
important.
what we need.
Yes, we received this appropriation to purchase the building. Senator Murray championed that for us, which was wonderful. And then we also received a local community project grant that was sponsored by Senator Randall and fully supported by Representatives Caldier and Hutchins. And so that was very bipartisan. They all came together. And so that is what we will be replacing all of the kitchen equipment with at the restaurant building that we owned, because we're not only expanding our food bank, but we have plans to eventually use the kitchen there for a hot meal program, and then to create a revenue generating opportunity to help sustain our organization.
And so when do you think, what's your plan for opening then?
Our plan, well, I was there. I have paint probably still in my hair. I was painting there last night until very late. We are just trying to get occupancy and working with the health district on some things. And if all goes well, it's been a crazy few months, but we're hoping to be in there maybe by the end of July, beginning of August.
This summer.
This summer.
Oh my
That's
gosh, you
the
guys
plan.
have moved
We've
so
been working very
fast.
hard since February. We have been working.
But this has been a 4-year.
It's been a
Actually, this has been in the plans for a long time.
Yes. So we hit the ground running the moment we had people up there tearing up the floor. And it's really been a volunteer effort for the most part, except for the things that we couldn't do ourselves, the plumbing, there needed a lot. It needed a lot. And so because we were able to use some of our building fund that we had planned for at the other
building.
building.
Have you decided what you're going to do with the old nursery location?
Yes, we have. Thank you for asking. So we
I
fortunately
knew the answer, by the way, so.
were able to keep that property which is amazing.
Amazing.
And so our plan is to renovate, because that's the word you use. You don't say build. We're going to renovate our existing food bank building and add some square footage to that will allow us to expand the footprint greatly while not triggering the stormwater, the costly almost $1 million stormwater plan that basically sunk our original building. So we will be using that as a warehouse to store all of our palletized product. We're going to be working with the Pacific building to store some of their
doesn't
product.
Have warehouse space.
It doesn't. And it has a wonderful, huge area that used to be the sports bar when it was there. But it's prime real estate, and so we want to be able to use that for all client services. We want to be able to use it for resource fairs, our fundraisers that we do dinners and things like that, for us to be able to have maybe a meal site with Meals on Wheels. I'm meeting with Meals on Wheels next week. There are lots of things that we're going to be able to do with that. And so then once we have the warehouse built, we're starting on that at the end of June, because we have some funds if we don't use those, or they're going to go away. So we have the permits. We're going to take down the falling down greenhouses. We're going to mitigate some soil stuff in the very back when they were a nursery. And then we're going to, in addition to the big warehouse, have a greenhouse, a new, modern, much more energy efficient greenhouse, and gardens that will help to support the kitchen. They're coming back.
Super. I'm so happy for you guys.
And we have another little bit of exciting news.
Yes.
So there's property directly behind our new building that we had actually tried to work with the owners on, and we just had the appraisal done, and it looks like they're going to donate the property to us. So we will be able to even expand our gardens even further and do some other really exciting
give you more
things.
options for the future.
More exciting options for the future.
Well,
yeah, we're pretty lucky.
Jennifer, thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for everything that you personally do and South Kitsap Helpline does for our community.
Thank you very much.
Wow, talk about an effective organization. That's just outstanding.
Thanks.
So I look forward to talking with you next time on Conversation with a Community Leader. But, I got to give your website. So please visit skhelpline.org and leadershipkitsap.org for more information and for donations and how you can help South Kitsap Helpline. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you next time.